Good evening, friends, and welcome to Sleepless Creator. Tonight, I've brought you a calm, gentle story, a bedtime sleep story crafted for sleepless minds and restless hearts. This is more than just history for sleep. It's a soft-spoken escape into forgotten times and quieter worlds, designed to help you fall asleep fast. If your thoughts are racing, or if peace feels far away, you're in the right place. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let these sleep-inducing stories guide you gently into rest. Your quiet night begins now, with Sleepless Creator * Story 1. Too rich to sleep, the heavy burden of medieval luxury, the bed that broke the back. You find yourself in a chamber lined with thick, uneven tapestries, stiff with age, and heavy with the scent of damp wool and candle wax. It's a wealthy manor in England, perhaps around the year 1310. You're standing quietly, unnoticed, in the corner of a room no peasant could ever afford. The stone floor is strewn with rushes, dried reeds and herbs meant to sweeten the air, though time has made them more dust than scent. In the center of the room stands a grand four-poster bed, carved oak, draped in crimson cloth, goose feather mattress. It looks inviting, but don't be fooled. For all its grandeur, this bed is a trap, a fortress of discomfort designed not for sleep, but for status. You see, to be rich in medieval England meant performing wealth. Even at night, the mattress is soft. Too soft. There is no memory foam, of course, no orthopedic design. Instead, the bed bows inward, swallowing the sleeper in a sea of down and itchy wool, offering little support to weary bones. The pillows are stuffed high goose feathers again. Though often mixed with horsehair, they crackle faintly when pressed, like parchment under fingertips. A rich sleeper lies stiff, elevated, their head never sinking too far down. Too low, and one might seem poor. And the linens, they're fine, yes. Imported from Flanders, dyed in colors forbidden to common folk. But they're not smooth like your blanket. They scratch. They hold the cold in winter and cling to sweat in summer. And in every fold, there's a bit of show, a reminder to guess that this house can afford discomfort, because it can afford anything now. Let your eyes wander to the ceiling above the bed, a canopy of embroidered silk, too fragile to touch. It's more for mice than men. Insects crawl in the seams. Cobwebs, if left unattended, drape the corners like funeral veils, and so the rich sleep, upright, uneasy, propped by reputation. Each night is less a rest than a ritual. But before the sleeper dares to close their eyes, something else must happen. Something slower. A servant arrives. She carries a warming pan brass filled with hot coals. Slowly, carefully, she slides it between the sheets, not to make the bed comfortable, no, but to keep the chill from seizing the limbs too soon. She moves in silence. She always does. A wrong sound could wake a noble's rage. And once she's gone, the silence returns, but it's not peaceful. It's the silence of creaking beams, of drafts hissing through shutter cracks, of rats shifting in the rushes. There are no earplugs, no white noise machines, only the long, anxious listening for nothing at all. You begin to see the rich were watched, envied, served, but rarely soothed. How strange that so many in the village thought this life was heaven. The servants whisper and the chamber pots tolu drift back into the hush of the manor's night. Candlelight pools softly on stone floors and tapestries, painting wavering shadows that seem to listen. In this quiet realm between wakefulness and sleep, there are others moving so softly you might almost think they are part of the night itself. A servant, cloaked in muted wool, eases through the corridor just beyond the bedroom doorway. You sense her presence before you see her, the faint shuffle of feet over rushes, the soft rustle of her skirts, the muted clink of keys at her belt. She is here for two quiet vigilances. The first is the warming pan, already tucked beneath the sheets, still faintly warm from its journey. The second is something less fragrant, but no less essential. She carries a chamber pot. You might wonder why in a house so grand they still use chamber pots. The answer lies in routine. There were no bathrooms, of course not, even a private latrine. So every few hours through the night, a servant, often more than one, would step, careful and low-voiced, to offer relief to their master or mistress. Imagine the tread of woolen socks on stone, the slow sighs of shifting blankets, the clink of pottery on wood as it's handed from hand to hand, the soft hush when done. This ritual is neither dramatic nor shameful. It is acceptance. It is part of life's blood at night. It is also a reminder. Wealth does not exempt one from basic needs. It merely assigns them a slow, whispered choreography. As the chamber pot travels its midnight route, you see the flicker of candlelight on the servant's face. She's young perhaps, barely past her 15th year. Her skin bears the barely visible roughness of early chores, churning butter, washing rushes, hauling water. Her eyes are steady, her movements practiced. She knows that silence is golden in noble halls. Each slip of the pot must be hushed, each clink muted, each footstep slow enough to avoid arousing the sleepers. But there is a loneliness here, too. Imagine how she feels in the stillness alone with her thoughts, her duty, her fear of misstep. For a wrong sound could bring censure. A disturbed master might blame his restless sleep, and then who would? Pay. And consider the contrast. Above her, in the panelled chamber, the lord or lady of the house lies on fine linen and feather yet. Often they wake uncomfortable, cold, or anxious. They call for this girl again and again, each visit pulling them from the depths of slumber. Sleep becomes fragmented. Dreams come and go like fireflies in a breeze, soft, fleeting, never fully captured. By dawn, the routine begins anew. The bed is stripped, the rushes brushed, the linens aired. Servants shuffle by with water, soap, brushes. The master rises, brief eyelids heavy with half-formed thoughts. Would they remember the fragments of dreams, or just the aching joint, the weight of being too well cared for? This is life in luxury, something like being well fed, but perpetually hungry. Imagine the servant's path after she completes her tasks, back through corridors, still cold, through kitchens where coals are raked into embers, past scullery maids scraping cauldrons in the dim light. At home, perhaps a straw pallet awaits for her rest. It is a different kind of bed, far simpler, far less adorned, but perhaps infinitely more forgiving. In the quiet dawn, the world shifts again. Servants vanish into chores. Lords and ladies pull on layers of wool and silk, but the sleep deficit remains a subtle exhaustion, prickly and persistent, hidden under fine clothes and polite smiles. And you, listening in the dark, might wonder, what is comfort, truly, when one cannot fully sleep? As the sky lightens, the manor begins to wake. A distant crowing, the creak of shutters, the hiss of distant cattle. In a few hours, breakfast. But for now, the ghosts of the night linger in corners. The half-dreamed reflections, the ache of interrupted rest, the servants' worn footsteps carried on the hush. Why the rich never rested, the manor, once again, lies quiet. But this stillness isn't peace. It's the sound of another day beginning for those who had never truly slept, as you breathe in the cool hush of early morning somewhere around the 6th hour, just before prime. You feel the weight of silence hanging in rooms too heavy with expectation. This, now, is the heart of the story, not the scratchy linens or the chamber pot, not the servant's footsteps or the canopy's dust. This final piece of the puzzle is quieter still. It's what you don't see what kept the rich from resting, even when all their needs were met. They lived in a cage, an invisible one, gilded with manners and laws, prayers and performance. You can hear it in the soft creak of the bedroom door, just before the valet enters with a clean tunic, a basin, and a bow. You can feel it in the air, the expectation, the pressure, the ritual that would soon unfold like clockwork, because wealth in medieval Europe came with a price: vigilance. If you were born into it, you carried the burden of lineage and appearance. If you climbed to its say through a clever marriage or royal favor, your anxiety was deeper still, born from fear of falling. Rest then became a luxury they couldn't afford to enjoy. Let's return for a moment to the bedchamber, to those final quiet hours before the first servant enters. Perhaps the lord or lady awakens with a tightness in the neck, an ache in the back. They've turned through the night, too aware of the bed's flaws, too conscious of the sounds that marked each hour, the clatter of pots in the scullery, the shifting of armored guards at the gate, the wind moaning through imperfect glass. Then, the mind begins its ancient dance, the anxious rehearsal of duties and decisions, a visit from the steward, a payment owed to the wine merchant, a rumor of unrest in the village, a cousin's son entering the clergy, but was he properly educated? Had his Latin improved? In the wealthiest homes, worry didn't end with dawn, it began with it. The performance of sleep, even sleep itself, had to be performed. Guests might be lodged down the corridor. Their ears might pick up late-night groans, pacing, or calls for the servant. If the master were known to toss and turn, or heaven forbids nor, it could become the subject of whispers. Imagine the gossip carried on carts between manors, or murmured at market stalls in the shadow of a wool canopy. Did you hear? Sir Geoffrey keeps a brass pot under his bed. Can't make it through the night without his boy bringing water. Lady, Matilda doesn't rise until sext. Can't abide the early light. Says it gives her melancholy. Even one's schedule could be a threat to status. The rich were meant to rise early and pray, maintain correspondence, keep accounts, and so they did, or at least they appeared to. The effort of this appearance was exhausting in itself. One account from a 14th century steward's ledger describes a nobleman's morning routine down to the minute. Linens pulled back at dawn, hands washed with warmed water, feet rubbed with rosemary oil to banish wind, a light breakfast of stale bread and pear wine, and a candle relit precisely at the 7th hour to read aloud from a devotional text, not because the nobleman cared deeply about the text, but because a visiting friar was present that week. In public, everything mattered, even the appearance of being well-rested, rich in possessions, poor in control. Now step outside into the manors, grounds. You pass the stables, hear the shuffling of horses, the dull echo of hooves on packed earth, and you see another burden of the wealthy: management, the land, the staff, the expectations. A poor man might have no sleep because of hunger or pain, but a rich man lay awake with inventory lists in his head. 3 cows lost to illness last month. The cooper's son mismeasured a barrel. The stonemason is growing old, must find an apprentice. In a strange way, the rich had less freedom over their own sleep than the very peasants they employed. A field worker might collapse at dusk and sleep without interruption until sunrise. His body spent, his dreams untroubled by property law or courtly etiquette. But the nobleman, he had to hold court. Literally, in some cases, visitors arrived with grievances, monks with appeals, traveling minstrels with obligations for hospitality. All this required a steady mind, and thus sleep. But sleep remained elusive, even when he closed his eyes. He wasn't alone. The spectre of Sinwi can't leave this story without touching on the deepest source of unrest among the medieval rich. The soul, religious anxiety haunted the hearts of noble households, for wealth in that time was considered spiritually dangerous. In sermons and tracts, the poor were praised as closer to Christ, while the rich were warned. Every coin, every jewel, every indulgence might weigh against them in the final judgment, and so their sleep became anxious. One might call for a priest in the middle of the night, desperate for reassurance. Another might keep a holy relic tucked in the folds of their bed linen, a finger bone of a saint, a strip of robe from a long-dead abbot, hoping it might ward off dreams of hellfire. A letter from a noble woman in Anjou, written in the year 1286, reads, ... and I lay awake most nights, wondering if I have given enough. I have paid for candles and bread for the nunnery, but still the visions come. I dream of falling, always falling. For many of the rich, sleep was not just elusive, it was dangerous. A realm where guilt could whisper louder than any servant's footstep. Dressing the day by the time dawn light finally broke through the oiled parchment of the window panes. The lord or lady had already been semi-awake for hours, not because they wished to rise early, but because the act of rest had become yet another performance, fraught with discomforts, physical, emotional, spiritual. A servant enters once more. The brazier is lit. The wash basin is refilled. Fine garments are laid out layer upon layer of linen, wool and fur, regardless of the season. A stiff doublet, laced tights, embroidered sleeves, a belt heavy with a purse and a dagger. Each item added weight. Each step into the day was a step away from rest. But there was no other path. They were born to this, or worse worked to reach it. A quiet reflection so, as we draw this story gently closed. You may find your thoughts trailing behind. The footsteps of that girl with the chamber pot, or lingering near the edge of the lumpy feather bed. You might recall the thick tapestries that muffled sound but trapped smells, or the reluctant flicker of candlelight on restless brows. You might think, how odd, that those with every advantage lived such burdened lives. But perhaps, quietly, the lesson is not so odd at all. Wealth, in the medieval world, was a costume a heavy one, worn even in sleep. And like all costumes, it hid as much as it revealed. Behind the velvet curtains and carved bedposts were weary bodies, racing minds, anxious hearts. They had no less worry than the poor, just a different kind. And now, as you rest beneath your own blankets, soft, warm, chosen, you can let that thought drift like incense through your mind. The richest people in the Middle Ages often slept the worst of all. And what does that tell us? Maybe, just maybe, true comfort was never in the feather bed, or the firewood, or the gold ring. Maybe it was in something simpler. A full stomach, a quiet conscience, a body allowed to rest. And with that thought, we leave the manna behind, the bed half made, the servant's candle guttering in the hall, the morning beginning anew. Sleep, if it comes, may come better to those who have nothing to prove. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. Story 2. The Sacred Yawn. When sleep was a ritual in ancient Japan, sleep under paper walls. Asterisk, you find yourself now far from Europe. Across the mountains and rivers, through ocean winds and lacquered temples, resting inside a quiet mink, a traditional wooden home in the countryside of Heian, Japan. The year is 1023. The hour is late. A screen door slides shut behind you with the softest scrape of wood against wood. Tatami mats cushion each step as you move deeper into the home's center. Lanterns, fueled by oil and fishbone ash, flicker just enough to cast shadows on the pale. Rice paper walls. The scent here is faint smoke. Pine, the barest trace of steamed barley. Outside, a wind is stirring through bamboo. A quiet tap of branches against the roof keeps time, like a metronome for dreams. This is a wealthy home, but not extravagantly so. Not a palace, but a village estate belonging to a noble scholar. He is not at court, not tonight. He is here, in his ancestral land, living out a kind of elegant obscurity. The halls of Kyoto are far behind him. Now, his life turns with the seasons and with the rhythm of rest. In Heian, Japan, rest was not a private afterthought. It was a public art, the ritual of readiness the household prepares for sleep as if for ceremony. There is no crashing of mattresses, no exhaustion collapse. Here sleep is invited. First, the fire in the irori, the sunken hearth is gently fed with one last pine log, not for warmth alone, but for scent. The crackling wood becomes part of the atmosphere, lulling the home toward silence. Then comes the folding of the foot on the sleeping mat. Unlike the heavy, fixed beds of medieval Europe, the futon is stored away each day and laid with care each evening. The servant responsible for this task is careful not to wrinkle the linen cover. He brushes the mat with a fine whisk broom made of rice straw. The futon is thin by modern standards, but that is its strength. It rests directly on the tatami floor, which breathes and adjusts with the seasons. Summer air glides beneath it. In winter, a padded quilt called a shikibutin is added. A second servant steps in, carefully fluffing the makutora, a small buckwheat hull pillow wrapped in silk dot. And then, most crucial of all, our screen is placed near the sleeping area, not to block sound, but to shape space. Sleep must occur within defined boundaries. The screen may carry painted cranes, plum blossoms, or even poems written by the master of the house. Tonight, it is plain. Inside the sleeping mind of a Heian noble. Imagine now our nobleman, he is perhaps 40, with hair bound back in a short topknot, his outer robe folded neatly on a cedar chest. He wears a lighter cassoade, tied simply, barefoot. On the tatami, his face is calm but heavy with thought. He has spent the day writing letters in Kana script and reciting poetry to an unseen companion he kneels beside. A lacquered stand and opens a tiny scroll. It is a Buddhist chant, written in red ink. He reads it once aloud, lips barely moving, eyes softening. Not prayer in the Western sense, more like gentle tuning of the soul. Next, he rinses his hands with a wooden dipper, lets the cold water fall into a basin filled with pebbles. The sound plunk, trickle is deliberate, soothing. Sleep begins here. Finally, he steps toward his futon, kneels, bows once, and lies down on his side, never on the stomach, never with the feet pointing west. That is the direction of death. He closes his eyes. The screen flickers with firelight. You watch from the edges of the room, invisible, undetected. You hear nothing now but breath and bamboo, and slowly your own thoughts begin to slow. The architecture of quiet these homes and like, the stone castles of Europe breathe, air glides easily through gaps in the woodwork, insects hum near the eaves. Occasionally, you hear the hush of a neighbor's footsteps outside, soft as wind against reeds. Privacy, here, is not silence. It is harmony. The paper walls called shoshi are thin, yes, but not weak. They admit moonlight in stripes, offering the sleeper a constant awareness of time, no ticking clocks, just gradual dimming and lightening, a kind of whispered awareness of nature's pace. And nature was not an intruder. It was a companion to sleep near trees, to hear wind, to smell earth. That was considered spiritually healthy. One slept with the seasons, with the insects, with the gods. Not all sleep was solitary now. Let us widen our view. The nobleman's wife sleeps in the adjacent room. She too lies on a futon, though hers is adorned with dyed indigo trim. A screen of plum blossom embroidery stands between her and the outer corridor. Her ladies in waiting, 2 of them, sleep just outside her chamber, ready to fetch water, to warm rice for medicine, to adjust a blanket if wind grows too sharp. Children, if there are any, lie tucked into separate chambers, tended by a nursemaid, their futons wrapped in extra cloth. The family's cat curls in the corner near a faded cushion. Sleep here is staggered, layered, and communal. It's not uncommon for someone to wake and move gently between rooms. One wakes to write a poem, another wakes to adjust incense, then returns to sleep. To sleep in Heian, Japan was to drift, return, drift again. There was no shame in broken sleep. In fact, it was expected. The night watchers now lift your eyes to the paper window. You see the pale flame of a lantern being carried down the path outside. It is the watchman, every estatural or urban kept one. He walks a set path, announcing his presence with soft claps or a low chanted verse. Not to rouse, but to soothe, he chants something soft, in a language old even then. All is well. The east wind passes. Sleep in peace. His voice disappears like fog, but the house remembers. So do you. Inside, the air is slightly cooler now. The nobleman shifts once on his futon, breathes deeply, and dreams. And what did the nobles dream? Of, sometimes? They recorded them in ancient Heian diaries, such as the Pillow Book by Sei Shonagon 1 finds mention of dreams where butterflies land on letters, where ghosts deliver verses in snow, where pine trees whisper riddles in a woman's voice. Dreams were not nonsense. They were messages worthy of ink and study. Sometimes, in the very middle of the night, a noble would rise, open a scroll, and write the dream in perfect calligraphy. The act was quiet, reverent. He might then return to sleep, or sit in stillness, incense smoke curling round his hair, because sleep, like poetry, was a gateway not just to rest, but to the realm of the sacred dot. And so, the house sleeps. It is the 5th hour now. The fire in the aurori has dimmed. Outside, owls have replaced the last of the night cicadas. The nobleman sleeps. His wife sleeps. The servants sleep. Even the cat sleeps, tail tucked over its face. The house holds its breath, and you, to lie, still somewhere between the walls and the dream. You understand now that in Heian, Japan, sleep was not wasted time. It was another form of life, just slower, more delicate. A dance with shadows and moonlight. You might ask, did they sleep better than we do? Not longer, not deeper, but perhaps more, beautifully. And as this part of the journey fades, you feel yourself softening, letting go. Midnight tea and the monk's dreams. The moon is higher, now waxing round and heavy as a pearl suspended in ink. It floats over forested hills just beyond the edge of the estate, and farther still, beyond rice fields and sleeping deer, nestled in the folds of a low mountain, stands a small temple. Its roofs are curved like the wings of cranes. Its walls are silent, but within those silent-shaped walls, one man is still awake. A monk. You step lightly inside. The wooden floor beneath your bare feet is cool, scrubbed with ash and water, free of dust. Paper lanterns flicker low, casting warm circles across the polished cedar beams. The air smells faintly of pine, sandalwood, and roasted barley. He sits, cross-legged on a woven mat, spine straight, robes loose, hands resting on his knees. His eyes are closed, but he is not sleeping. Not yet. In Heian period Japan, monks were the quiet guardians of night. While noblemen and courtiers dreamed in silk, monks kept vigil with breath, mantra, and tea. This monk is middle-aged, with a beard softening his jaw and a forehead touched faintly with age. His robe is brown, simple, tied with faded hemp cord. His mind is slow, calm. You can feel it radiating from him, like the warmth of coals hidden beneath a clay lid. He is practicing zazen-seated meditation. But unlike later Zen forms, this meditation is not bare or severe. It is infused with stories, imagery, gentle reflection. The teachings of the time embraced the dream world, not rejected it. Tonight, he is reciting verses from a sutra that speak of sleep not as sloth, but as sacred. To sleep well was a sign of harmony. To wake too often was a sign of imbalance, not a moral failing, but a spiritual not waiting to be untied. The tea before sleep beside him, in a lacquered tray, sits a bowl of warm tea. Not thick and foamy like the later tea ceremonies of the samurai age, but simpler. A roasted grain infusion called mujicha, made from toasted barley and steeped in clear mountain water. The tea is warm, but not hot, bitter, but not sharp. It settles the body like a lullaby in liquid form. Drinking this tea is not a break from practice, it is part of it. The monk raises the bowl slowly with both hands, inhales the steam, and drinks with deliberate silence. His breath afterwards is deeper. His shoulders sink slightly. He finishes the bowl, wipes the rim, and returns it to the tray. Every motion is part of a rhythm. There is no rush, nothing to get through. Even the preparation of sleep is an act of presence. He may now choose to sleep or not. Monks in this era did not follow uniform schedules. Some slept through the night, others in intervals, some only for a few hours. The rhythm was organic, guided by the moon, the body, and the breath. The dream journal in the corner of the monks. Cell is a scroller, simple one, bound with twine. It is his dream journal. In Heian monastic life, dreams were not personal trifles. They were considered messengers from the Kamitha spirit soar, from the workings of karma, memory, or hidden truth. He opens the scroll and gently unrolls a blank section. His brush is narrow, the ink is cool, and though he does not know yet what dreams will come, he prepares the page in advance. This is trust. Earlier, he recorded a dream from the past week. I was standing beneath a tree. Its blossoms fell in reverse, rising from ground to branch. A child pointed at the moon, and I saw my own face there. Then a bell rang from beneath the earth. There is no need to explain it. It is not a riddle to solve. It is a ripple on the surface of his mind, recorded with respect. The first sleep, and now he lies down, not on a futon, but on a straw mat, with a thin cloth. A folded robe serves as a pillow. No blanket, no screen, just the moonlight slipping through a slatted window, painting soft bars of silver across his chest. His eyes remain open for a while. He watches the light. He listens to the wood creak. He lets his thoughts fall like leaves into a still pond. Sleep does not happen to him. He surrenders to it as one might surrender to a chant, slowly, with reverence, trusting it will carry him. And when sleep comes, it is light, transparent, like gauze. Not the dead weight of exhaustion, but the gentle dimming of the lantern. Midnight. Interruptions, but few sleep through undisturbed. In this temple, midnight is not forgotten. An hour after midnight, a bell is rung in the outer courtyard. Once, twice, 3 times. The monk stirs, not startled, just aware. This bell is not to wake him, it is to mark the turning of time. There is no clock in the temple, but the night is measured. Monks would often wake briefly in the middle hours to walk, pray, or reflect. Some would chant verses, others would refill lamps. Still others would drink another bowl of tea to ground their thoughts. Tonight, our monk rises and steps into the outer corridor. You follow quietly. The corridor opens to a stone path lined with moss. The moon is bright enough to see without flame. He walks slowly, barefoot, hands folded in sleeves. His feet make no sound on the smooth wood. He kneels beside the temple's bronze bell, simple, old, cast long before his birth. He bows to it, then rings it gently. A single note. The sound is not loud. It does not disturb. The night, it joins it, and then he bows again and returns to his cell. This practice reminds him, and all within hearing, that time continues. Even when we rest, a shared dream, he sleeps again. Now, for another hour or 2, this time deeper. He may dream of something strange, a tree with too many roots, a dog speaking in a child's voice, a lantern that floats above water. He may never record these things, or he may rise before dawn and write them with slow brushstrokes. But somewhere in another temple, another monk might dream the same thing. In this way, dream became ritual, and ritual became rest. What wakes the monk just before sunrise? He wakes not to a bell, not to a rooster, but to the soft glow of the eastern sky behind the mountains. He does not spring up. He lies still, breathes, and then sits slowly, as if his body were remembering the shape of waking. He bows once, and the day begins. But the sleep, though light, and sometimes interrupted, has left him steady, not refreshed in the modern sense, not energized, but balanced. Still clear dot, enough for one more day of tea, verse, prayer, and silence. A quiet lesson as we step gently away from the temple, the bell no longer ringing, the tea bowl cleaned and stored, the monk back at his sutras. You may wonder what made his sleep so different. It was not perfect, not deep, not long, but it was purposeful. It was shaped, invited, honored, and perhaps that's what we've forgotten. In a world of schedules and screens, of artificial light and restless minds, perhaps we do not sleep poorly, because we are broken, but because we no longer prepare, we no longer make space. The monk did, and so he dreamed, and now perhaps you will too. Why the ancients slept with spirits nearby, *, the temple fades behind you like breath on cold glass. The monk's steps fall silent, and his dreams now ripple quietly beneath the hush of dawn. You walk a narrow path down the mountain slope, past sleepy pine trees and brush-stroked skies, and there, nestled at the foot of the hill, lies a quiet village. Thatch-roofed homes, low stone walls, vegetable plots sleeping beneath straw mats. No guards, no grandeur, just rhythm. And in this place, too, sleep has its sacred place. The year is still the same, somewhere near 1023. The era of courtiers, poets, monks. But here, among farmers and fishermen, something different lives on. An older idea, not Buddhist, not Confucian, something woven deeper into the soil, a belief that sleep is not a departure, but a gathering, that when one lays down their body, they are not alone. They sleep with Kami in the Tatamin, the Shinto belief system. The Kami are not gods in the Western sense. They are spirits, forces of nature, echoes of ancestors, wind, shadow, memory. They reside in trees, rivers, foxes, stones, but also in rooms, in folds of silk, in corners of your sleep. Tonight, as the village settles into evening, each home prepares the same ways, lowly, gently, deliberately, not out of fear, but reverence. A family gathers around the hearth. They eat rice, miso, maybe pickled plum. They speak little softly, with the day's work still on their breath. And then, when the fire dims, they place a stick of incense at the doorway. Why? To invite the Kami in, or to gently say, "We are quiet now. If you are passing, may you pass in peace." The family lays out futons across the straw-covered floor. The windows are left slightly ajar. A bamboo charm hangs from the beam, and on a small shelf called a kamadana, or god shelf, rests a paper talisman, a twig of sacred sakaki, and a small clay dish of salt. These are not elaborate altars, but they are signal signs to the spirit world that the household is in order, calm, open. It is said that the Kami do not like chaos. They pass through peaceful places, and in return, those who sleep in peace sleep well, sleeping near ancestors in many homes. A second shelf stands nearby, smaller, simpler. It holds something even closer, the memory of the family's dead. Here, in the soft quiet of the night, the living and dead are not divided by dread or fear. They are simply in different forms, one breathing, one remembered. Before sleep, a child might bow to that shelf, not to worship, but to say goodnight. A grandmother, who passed in spring, an uncle lost at sea, a baby who lived only a few weeks. They are still part of the home, and when sleep comes, it is not lonely, it is a return. The fox at the threshold. In this village, there is one story that mothers tell children before sleep. You hear it whispered, now through a paper wall. If you dream of a white fox, the mother says, it means a spirit is watching you sleep. Don't be afraid. The fox will not harm you, but you must not speak. Let it pass. Let it walk across your pillow and disappear into the window. This is not superstition, it is invitation. In traditional Japanese folklore, the fox kitsune is a messenger between worlds. If it comes to your sleep, it means your door is open. Some say the fox brings news from ancestors. Others say it tests your stillness. Either way, the dream is cherished. The child may wake and whisper, "The fox came," and no one asks why. They only nod and remember. The night of two sleeps, not all sleep, was done at once, just as in Europe. The people of ancient Japan often slept in segments, not in a single stretch, but in two parts. After the first sleep, there might be waking brief or long, depending on the moon. During this time, it was common to drink tea, tend the fire, or sit outside. You see it now, a man seated on the wooden porch, looking out over a moonlit rice field. His family sleeps behind him. The frogs have begun their midnight chorus. He sips from a warm cup and does not move much, just breathes. He is not anxious. He is not sleepless. He is simply between the dreams. He may write a poem on a bamboo. Slip between two dreams. I heard the wind carry a fox's breath. Then, slowly, he will fold back his mat and return to rest. There is no rush. Sleep will come again, the soft edge of spirit in this village. People do not separate dream from world. A woman might dream of her mother's voice calling through the forest. In the morning, she will burn incense for her. A boy might dream of falling endlessly through water. His father will take him to the stream and let him wash his hands, there cleansing what the dream left behind. Sleep is not apart from life, it is its mirror, and so it must be kept clear, not perfect, not always restful, but clear, honest, shared. The sound of shared rest. Now the village has fallen silent. Futons line, the floors like ripples in a pond. Crickets sing, the paper walls breathe, and you are here. You do not live in this time, but the rhythm holds you all the same. A soft breeze, the creak of wood, a lantern's flicker. You begin to understand that in this world, to sleep is not escape. It is communion with the land, with the dead, with the dream, with the unseen, with yourself. What? They feared, but it would not be honest to say there was never fear. There were beliefs, too, about bad dreams, ill omens, spirit disturbances. But unlike later superstitions that warned and frightened, these fears were softened by ritual. If a dream brought unease, one could write it on paper and float it down a stream. If a house felt heavy at night, a simple prayer, just a whisper, really could be spoken near the door. Let what is restless find rest. Let what is passing keep passing. And peace, like a slow fog, would return. A final image. Let us now drift toward morning. You stand again beneath the rising light of a new day, somewhere on a quiet path between village and field. The dew on the grass is silver. The air smells of charcoal and plum. A woman sweeps her porch. A boy rubs his eyes. A dog stretches near a pile of roof tiles. Another night is ended, but no one rushes, because they know that night will come again, and with it, sleep, and with sleep, the spirits, a gentle ending. And so the story closes, not with a moral, not with a climax, but with breath. The people of ancient Japan did not ask sleep to fix them. They did not wrestle with it. They did not fear its imperfection. They welcomed it with tea, with ink, with salt and screens and silence. And perhaps, if we did the same, prepared, gently honored dreams, softened our edges, we might find that sleep is not a thing to chase, but a friend waiting quietly at the door. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. Story 3. The Laundry Scrolls. How ancient Rome washed, dried, and folded the fuller's workshop at dawn. Good evening, dear listener. Before we begin this next journey, settle once more. Let your head rest comfortably. Let your limbs fall heavy. Dim the last of the light. Maybe light a candle if one is nearby. Or simply listen, because where we're going, the candles burn with tallow, and the streets, though ancient, are already waking. We are entering Rome, not the marble palaces of emperors, not the halls of senators, or the riotous circuses filled with cheers and chariots. No, this is a quieter place. A back street, a tiled alley just off the main road where steam rises before sunrise. It's a place where tunics are bleached, togas scrubbed, and wool stretched and wrung until clean. This is a Thessalonica Roman laundry workshop, and today you will walk through it slowly. No need to lift anything, no heavy vats, just your senses, just your attention. Let's begin. The smell of clean in Romu rise with the sun, or rather, just before it. The streets are still dark. Lamps sputter on bronze poles. Vendors are sleeping. But from a small corner near the Subura district, smoke curls into the morning air. A faint hiss of water meeting hot stone drifts out. This is the Fuller's Yard. The Fuller's Salons are ancient Rome's professional launderers. Not noble, not elite, but not invisible either. Their work is vital, and their knowledge specialized. The work is hard, but the rhythm is familiar, and the rhythm begins with heat. Large stone basins line the walls. They are filled with water, ash, and a key ingredient, human urine. Fresh and aged. It doesn't sound pleasant, and it isn't. But for the Roman fuller, ammonia from urine is essential. It breaks down grease and dirt. It lifts oil from wool. It acts, in their words, like the touch of fire cleansing, purifying. And so, before the sun rises, apprentices collect jars of urine from public pots left at intersections the night before. They pour them into vats. The basins bubble, and soon, the work begins. The fuller's tools you stand beside the vats now. They are deep, waist high, worn from years of lie in motion. Next to them lie bundles of garments, stolas, mantles. Some belong to merchants, others to soldiers, children, matrons. Each is tagged with a scrap of parchment, inked with the owner's mark. The Roman laundry system is primitive, yes, but organized. There are fines for lost garments, laws governing proper whitening. Each cloth has its place, and the tools: a wide bristled brush made of pig hair, a long-handled paddle for beating linen, and most peculiar of all, the fuller's own feet. For many garments, the cleaning begins with the foot dancer practice called fullo treading. The fuller steps into the vat, barefoot, and begins to walk, stomp, sway, back and forth, over and over. The cloth is beneath him. The water is warm. The ammonia bites the air. His feet press and lift, press and lift. It is a kind of laundry ballet. He is not alone. Around him, a chorus of other workers do the same. Some hum, some curse softly, but mostly there is quiet, just the sound of splashing, and the whisper of linen in water. Linen, wool, and the Roman idea of cleanly to a Roman is not always what we might imagine. They did not use soap, not in the modern sense. Instead, they relied on natural abrasives like fuller's earth, clay, ash, and sometimes crushed sulfur stone to draw out impurities. Wool was the primary challenge. It could not simply be dunked and wrung. It required coaxing, warm water, steady pressure, repetition. The process was sacred to the fuller, not in a religious sense, but in routine. Each fabric was known by feel, some too coarse, some dyed and delicate. Each piece demanded different care. Wool was not just warm, it was Roman status, Roman warmth, Roman modesty. To clean it was to serve the order of life itself. The morning break by the time the sun fully rises. Steam fills the Phalonica like mist on a riverbank. The workers break only once for a slice of flatbread, a swallow of wine mixed with vinegar and water, a brief seat on a worn stone bench. They do not speak much. Hands are already soaked, fingers wrinkled, tunics damp from the knees down. One, fuller older, with a grizzled beard and a quiet gaze, wipes his hands on a cloth and says softly, "This work outlives us." The cloth goes on. We are just the ones who clean it. And that is enough. A citizen arrives the morning ages. Customers begin to appear. One, perhaps a Roman matron named Julia, steps into the entryway. Her veil pinned just so, her sandals. Dusted from the street, she hands over a wrapped bundle, 4 tunics, 2 sashes, and a child's sleeping cloth. She speaks not to the apprentices, but to the steward. "Light ash only," she says. "No trampling. And I want it perfumed. Not strong, just lavender." He nods, makes a small mark on a wax tablet. She lingers only briefly, then disappears again into the clatter of carts and cries of vendors. The scent of lavender and, so her, garments are cleaned gently, treaded only once, then rinsed in warm water and lavender oil sourced from the hills beyond Tiber. The scent will not last long, but long enough for her next feast, long enough to pass through the atrium, trailing civility. Cleanliness, in Rome, was not moral. It was political, public, a sign of honor. To send your garments to the Phalonica was not shameful, it was expected. And the footballers, though working in filth, they were indispensable. Their work touched every class, every corner of society, from emperor to slave. A gentle ending to labor as the sun tips westward. The basins are drained. The garments are wrung by hand, or beaten dry with padded sticks. Some are laid on heated stones to bleach. Others are brushed with chalk paste to brighten the fabric. The floors are scrubbed. The foot vats are cleaned. The ammonia pots are sealed. The tools are washed in vinegar, and slowly the steam fades. A stillness returns. The workers stretch their backs. Someone hums a line from a tavern song. Another laughs, low and hoarse, remembering something he never shares. The day is done. The cloth is clean, and in the back corner, folded with quiet precision, lies Julia's sleeping cloths, sun-dried, perfumed, and ready to return to her villa, where it will cradle her child beneath a Roman moon. A thought before sleep as we step back now, letting the Phalonica grow small behind us. You might wonder, did they think of their work as noble? Perhaps not in words, but in practice it was. They touched every fold, every fiber, every life, and tomorrow they would do it again. Because in ancient Rome, even laundry had a rhythm, even labor had a softness, a method, a meaning. And now, in your own quiet space, with the steam of Rome behind you, you may find yourself softening 2 light cloth returned from the basin, clean, pressed, still, asterisk, urine pots, soapstones, and silent labor asterisk. You return to the early afternoon hush of the Phalonica, where dust motes drift through sunlit gaps in the tiled roof, and clay urns rest in shadow beside stone basins. The air hums softly with warmth and moisture, punctuated only by the gentle patter of water and the soft creak of wooden beams. Here, the Phalonas, the launderers, continue a ritual older than the empire itself. They work without spectacle. No grand proclamations, no trumpets, no applause. Only cloth, water, air, and human hands attuned to delicate, unhurried precision. Urine pots, The silent alchemists, each corner of the workshop stands squat claypot vessels, their rims glazed where liquid has overflowed time and again. These are the infamous urina jars of human urine collected from public troughs overnight. It's not meant to shock you. This is the quiet science of Rome. Urine contains ammonia, a natural cleanser. When mixed with hot water and full as earth, it becomes a solution that lifts grease and oils out of cloth. Imagine now apprentices slipping down narrow alleyways at twilight, carrying small jugs to fill them with whatever's left in those public pots. They move quickly, discreetly. The jars clink as they're hoisted onto shoulders, carried home, then into the workshop. Nothing is wasted. Everything is transformed. Back in the Phalonica, one apprentice dips a ladle into a jar and pours the golden liquid into a vat steaming with warm water. It hisses softly. A swirl of fragrance or the faintest hint of ammonia drifts upward. It's not unpleasant once you adjust to it. The fullers lean over the vat, inhaling deeply, assessing the potency. Too weak, and grease won't lift. Too strong, and the fabric will crack. They know, by smell and experience, when the mixture is just right. Soap, stones and fullers, earth beyond. The vats lies an assortment of cleaning materials, mounds of fine clay fullers, earth grated to dust, ready to absorb oils, soapstones, pumice-like. Chunks from Sicily rough and coarse, used for stubborn stains. Fragments of tufa, a soft volcanic stone, shaped and smoothed for polishing wool. Each is used with silent care. A fuller picks a stray red wine stain from a wool tunic. He rubs in a paste ash, urine, clay until the mark softens. Another arranges pumice chips on a board and scrubs gently, rhythmically, over the coarse stone. It leaves a fine powder behind. Then, with careful hands, wool is rinsed in clean water. Each drop of rinse is deliberate, each stroke a gentle caress. This is not just cleaning, it is tending. The dance of silent labor standing here. You notice how little the Phalonica feels like a workshop. It feels like a stage of subtle performance. Each tool and material is chosen and treated with respect. Each garment is handled slowly, folded, weighed again, massaged in water, inspected with scrutiny. No loud orders, no glaring overseers, no harsh voices. The only sounds are cloth sliding through fingers, water bubbling, a lifter raising a tunic to inspect its dryness, gentle footsteps over wooden planks in this quiet space. Work is not a burden, it is shared ritual. The hearth of clean now. Turn your attention to the drying area. Framed by wooden beams, racks of clean fabric sway gently overhead. Sunlight filters through slats, casting stripes against linen and wool. A gentle breeze flows through open windows, silent. A fuller tests the dryness of a toga. He breathes on it, then spreads it across his arm. When no moisture clings, he places it on the rack with care. In one corner, a small brazier smoulders with charcoal, its embers hidden beneath ash. It's used not for heat to dry cloth, but to smoke it very slightly. This faint scent keeps moths away and evens the fabric's fibers. A subtle precaution practiced for centuries. Stillness in returns. The afternoon moves toward evening. The tempo slows, further. Steam rises, then stops. The water sloshes against stones. Tools lie clean and unused. The fullers take a break. No laughter today, only a shared exhale. No small talk, no music, only the quiet satisfaction of tasks completed well. Before leaving, they close the jars of urine carefully, They stack soapstones in orderly piles. They brush dust off the fuller's earth. Then they step out. All that remains is the scent of clay, the softness of washed wool, and the gentle hush of an ancient craft. A quiet reflection. There is a simple lesson here, one that might ease your closing eye. Cleanliness is not simply about removing dirt. It is about care, about respect, about time taken, not rushed, and labor honored, not hurried, in this quiet space. You begin to understand that even the lowliest tasks can be sacred. Because when you return tomorrow evening to your own restful bed, lined with fresh sheets, you may carry a subtle gratitude, not just for the comfort, but for the hands and rituals that made it so. Folding linen in the shadow of Empire *, the Phalonica has grown quiet again. The last of the linens hang on their wooden pegs, drying slowly beneath a stone archway where ivy presses in from the outside. You can smell the clay and chalk dust left behind in the floor's creases. There is a certain hush in the air, an echo of something deeply ordinary, yet quietly important. You remain here a while longer, long enough to watch the final part of this Roman ritual, the folding, packing, and returning of clean garments. This is not a task tossed off in haste. It is a ceremony of sorts, carried out with calm hands and practiced stillness. After all, these clothes will return to senators and slaves, shopkeepers and children, gladiators and schoolteachers, and so the fullers fold. One corner, then the other, edges pressed with fingertips, not rushed, not forgotten, just as it was for years. Linen, memory, and Roman life among the many materials handled in the Phalonica. Linen was the most delicate, made from the long fibrous stalks of flax plants. Linen was used for undergarments, togas, and the fine tunics of the elite. It was prized for its lightness in the heat of a Roman summer, but it frayed easily and absorbed stains with stubborn defiance. And so, linen required not only care in washing, but reverence in folding. You now see one of the elder man named Marcus, perhaps bending over a table of sun-dried linen. His hands are slow but sure. He doesn't measure. He doesn't need to. The memory is in his muscles. He smooths the fabric with the side of his palm. He creases it gently. He turns it once, then again. The result: a neat square, light as a whisper, ready to be returned. He places a thin reed of lavender inside each fold. It's not required, but he knows the customer will notice and appreciate. The folding becomes a kind of farewell. Here is your tunic. May it wear well. May it feel soft against your skin. May your body rest in it as it rested here with us. The return ritual when Roman citizens come to collect their garments. They don't enter the Phalonica itself. Instead, they wait in a shaded atrium out front, like a post office before its time. A young boy, perhaps the son of the steward, carries out the wrapped bundles. He calls the names, one by one, from a wax tablet. Lucius, Cornelius, 2 tunics. Gaius, Terentius, 1 toga, double folded. Julia, Sabina, child's nightdress and wrap. Each parcel is wrapped in cloth, often a repurposed scrap or old rag tied neatly with cord. Labels are handwritten, in ink, not signatures, but symbols, family marks, even simple pictograms for those who cannot read. There are no arguments, no bartering. The prices are known, paid monthly, usually, or traded in bread or oil. And with each collection, there is a moment small, but sincere, when hands brush together as parcels are exchanged. Sometimes a thank you is spoken. other times, just a nod. But always, the work is acknowledged. Folding among the slayers not. All garments go to noble houses. Some return to the simple bunks of enslaved people. Their linen is rougher, coarser, often mended several times. But it, too, is folded with care. A fuller's apprentice smooths a patched tunic. He notices a new tear. He says nothing, but uses his best string to bind the bundle. For in Rome, even those who own nothing still own sleep. They still own their skin. They deserve, if nothing else, a clean cloth to wrap themselves in at the end of day. Whiteness as a status symbol. You may be wondering, why all this effort? Why such careful folding? Why such attention to garments that will only be worn and soiled again? Because in Rome, appearance was public language. To wear a freshly whitened toga signaled one's honor, decency, and civic worth, especially in political life. In fact, candidates for public office were required to wear a specially whitened toga called the toga candida, from which we get the word candidate. The whiteness was not merely clean, it was bright, treated with chalk and powdered lime until it almost glowed. The fullers were the ones who created this brightness. Without them, there were no candidates, no polished forums, no glistening senators. Their work was behind every public face of Rome, invisible but essential, and so the folding was part of the performance. Clothing clean and well folded did more than cover the body it proclaimed. One's place. Evening, and the fuller's feeters. The last of the day's garments are dispatched. The fullers finally turn to themselves. One sits near the basin and lifts his feet, wrinkled from hours in solution. He rinses them in vinegar water, then dries them on clean cloth scraps of a toga, too torn to restore. He is quiet, so is everyone else. The vats are empty, the pots are sealed, the day is done. Final thoughts under the archway. Step outside now. The sun is low over the rooftops. Shadows stretch long across the Via Lotta. You walk past market stalls being shuttered for the night. You hear the quiet rustle of sandals on stone, and you think, all this from palace to tenement relied on care. The care of hands unseen, the gentle strength of those who folded fabric, day after day, century after century. Their legacy is not carved in stone. It is pressed into cloth, worn, used, forgotten, then made clean again. And in that cycle you find a softness, a rhythm, a kind of peace, soft reflection. The linen folds inward as you prepare to close your eyes tonight. Consider this. Somewhere, long ago, someone folded your ancestors' clothes, their blanket, their sleeping tunic. Perhaps they added a sprig of lavender, or made sure the fold faced outward. They did not know your name. They did not expect gratitude, but they folded the cloth anyway, because that's what you do. You tend to what others will wear, and carry, and rest within. And maybe that, in the end, is what history is. A long, slow folding of fabric, careful, reverent, unseen, but never meaningless. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place. Story 4. The garden beneath the palace. How Mesopotamians made sleep sacred among reeds and rivers. The sleep of scribes. Good evening. Dear traveler, let the day soften behind you. Breathe, let your mind settle like silt on the banks of an ancient river, because tonight we are not in the courts of kings or the heat of war. We are in the cradles of early cities. And we are looking not for monuments, but for mattresses. Not for conquest, but for quiet. We're returning to Mesopotamia, to the lands between rivers, to the shadowy corridors of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, where sleep was sacred, dreams divine, and rest a ritual older than writing. You're standing now at the edge of the Euphrates. Sometime around 2100 BCE, the river is low. The reeds nod in the wind. The clay underfoot is warm from a day of sun and foot traffic. You're outside. The city of yore, the ziggurat, rises nearby. Its steps steep and silent in the gathering dusk, and nearby, in a mud brick dwelling lined with reed mats, a scribe is preparing for sleep. But first there is work to do. The scribe's day ends with clay. His name might be in Labani. He is not a priest, but he is close to the temple. His role is important. He records offerings, prayers, debt, births. His reed stylus presses wedges into wet clay all day. You see him now, seated on a low stool. Before him, a tablet still damp, his day's final entries etched onto its face. He finishes the last line, wipes his stylus clean, and places the tablet carefully in a shallow basket lined with linen. But now comes the next part, what modern minds might call bedtime. For Enlil-Bani, sleep is not a collapse. It's a slow procession. He opens a jar of sesame oil. He rubs a small amount onto his temples, believed to keep the mind calm and the body balanced. Next, he lights a small dish of crushed myrrh and tamarisk resin. The smoke coils upward, trailing round the ceiling beams of reed and bitumen. The scent is earthy and sweet, something between incense and damp soil, a scent carried down by river winds and memory. He lays out a matter weave of palm fiber over tamped earth and places a rolled cloth beneath his head. There is no bed frame, no pillow, but everything is measured, everything intentional. The scribe's house and its sleep chamber, Sumerian houses, had no bedrooms in the modern sense. Instead, sleep happened wherever coolness and quiet could be found, sometimes on rooftops, in the hot months, sometimes in a rear room, where the clay walls were thickest and the night sounds softest. You follow Enlil-Bani as he steps into the inner courtyard. The sky above is dark blue, perforated with stars. He arranges himself near the inner wall, where the breeze touches, but the flies do not. Nearby, his wife hums to a baby already asleep on a padded mat. The tune is ancient, so old no one knows where it came from, but it works. Rituals before sleep, dream requests before laying down. Enlil-Bani whispers something, a short prayer, not to a god, but to his own breath. May the night carry me gently. May my sleep be seen. He then places a small clay token beneath his mat, shaped like a fish. Why a fish? Because the Sumerians believed dreams swam like fish beneath the waters of sleep. If the dream was worth remembering, the fish would leap from sleep into waking. Tomorrow, he will wake and touch the token. If he remembers the dream, he will write it down. If not, the token is washed and put away. Sleep here is not passive. It is watched. Sleeping beside Clatha, home itself is made of mud brick. Each block sun-dried and packed with straw. Walls breathe. Here they soak in heat by day and exhale it slowly at night. You can hear the faint sounds of the neighbors' settling water jars being capped, a donkey snorting, the hush of straw bedding being arranged. Nothing loud, nothing rushed, just a city, going still in this room, lined with clay vessels, baskets, and a single oil lamp. Sleep begins like a tide, first at the feet, then up the legs. then into the chest. NLIL-BANI. Exhales once more, and sleeps. Dreams as divine postcards in Suma. Dreams were more than thoughts. They were messages, portents, echoes from the divine. To sleep was to enter a different city of gods and shadows. Scribes, like in Lilbani, would often keep dream tablets near their workstations. These were small and flat, designed to record nighttime visions. If a king dreamt of a black bird landing on a column, it was discussed. If a farmer dreamt of a flood washing away figs, it was reported. And if a temple girl dreamt of a fish with for eyes, it was written down and interpreted. This is why sleep mattered, because it was not absence, it was contact. The river sleeps too later in the night. The Euphrates settles into near silence. The frogs hush. The air cools. Even the ziggurat seems to lean inward, heavy with quiet. And beneath woven palm mats, thousands sleep scribes, potters, barley merchants, mothers, servants, priestesses, all wrapped in night's breath, all hoping for a dream that swims, leaps, and stays. And whether the dreams come or not, the sleep is sacred, not always restful, but always watched, because the gods were listening. A question for the stillnesses. You lie now in your own space miles, and millennia away you might ask, when did we stop preparing for sleep the way we once did for prayers or meals? When did sleep become something we fall into, not walk toward? Maybe, if we let it, history can remind us that sleep is not the end of the day. It's another beginning, one made of stars, of fish, of clay and quiet hope. The temple dream interpreters and their clay tablets asterisk in the pale early morning air. The ziggurat shadow still stretches long across the courtyard. You step quietly among the columns, their mud brick surfaces worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Here, inside a modest chamber just beneath the temple's outer wall, another world is waking, one built not of wax seals or scribes, but of whispered dreams and clay tokens. Tonight, the chamber is dark, but for the faint glow of oil lamps. Their wicks are nearly spent. The oil burns golden and slow. In the center of the room sits a low platform, woven reed mats layered with soft goat hair blankets. Atop them lighter figures, a temple priestess and her assistant, both dressed in plain white linen, faces set in tranquil concentration. A small, shallow bowl between them holds clear water with a single floating lotus petal. You watch without interrupting. No doors creak, no other voices stir. In this quiet space, the boundary between sleep and vision is thin, so thin it might feel like silk brushing your own skin. A night of sacred listening, these two women are temple dream interpreters. Their task is ancient, to receive the dreams of others, to record them, and to translate their meaning. For centuries, kings and citizens alike have come here seeking divine insight through barley, through flood, through the turning of seasons, and always through dreams. Tonight's ritual is Privatean offering from a small household in the city's outskirts. The donor is away, but the interpreter must be ready. She lies still, hands folded at her chest, her assistant beside her. Each has slept only a few hours, broken by periods of awareness and recitation. They call it asterisk, half sleep. Kirituon, intermediate state between wake and rest. It is believed that in Kiratu, the soul drifts close to the divine. Ritual preparation of clay tablets. Nearby stands a low table. On it are dozens of small clay tablets, each about the size of a palm, soft and fresh. waiting to receive impressions. They are damp from the kill, still pliable enough for Naru's stylus impressions. Each has been inscribed with the date, the donor's name, and sometimes the name of the temple. Beside them are reed styluses and a small pot of black carbon ink, made of burnt tamarisk resin. The interpreter's assistant moves slowly. First, she moistens a tablet's edge with water. Then she takes an ink-dipped stylus and carefully writes the donor's name, your ilum, and the date. The third day of Nisanu. Finally, she molds the tablet's edge around the temple's Sela-stylized fish emblem, stamped into damp clay. Each tablet becomes both record and ritual offering. The clay holds memory, summoning the dream. The air grows quieter. The lotus petal in the bowl drifts with faint currents. The lamp's wick flickers. The interpreter breathes deeply, lowering her voice into a hummer-low incantation, rhythmic and reverent. K Bunumensha, K Itutuzini, Bertu, Anakalbum. She invokes the spirits of dream. The voice slow and steady as water slipping through reeds. Her assistant responds, whispering the same in echo when echo meant not to. Repeat, but to deepen the ritual. They chant until voices drop to breath. Then silence returns, and soon sleep. The dream arrives, you sense it before you see it. A shift in the air. The flame wavers. The lotus drifts. The interpreter's eyelids slow. Mouth parts, breath deepens. Her assistant watches, poised. A minute passes, another dot, and then the priestess begins to murmur, soft, not forceful, like the distant crash of river waves, half heard in a dream. She murmurs of water, of boats, of a white fish, of a man with no face. The assistant shakes her finger at each murmur, a silent tally. Then she picks up a fresh tablet, moistens it, and begins to inscribe. I dreamed, a river red as brick. The fish leaped, and in its wake, bread rose from the water. The stylus moves light, precise, no rush. No hesitation, recording and interpretation. The ritual continues for nearly an hour. The interpreter drifts in and out of half-sleep, each dream fragment noted. Her assistant remains awake, whispering clarifying questions when necessary. And what color was the fish's eye? Did the man speak, or remain silent? What happened to the boat? Each fragment is recorded. Each tablet is stamped. Eventually, the murmur stops. Breath slows. The flame steadies. The whisperers breathe in union, and the tablets lie there filled with moving fragments. Little clay doors to another realm. Late morning after, when the sky begins to lighten, outside the interpreter stirs. Her assistant fans her face gently. A basin of water appears. They drink. They wash their hands. They gather the filled tablets and take them to the temple Anelzen, other chamber where larger tablets are kept. Those will be interpreted later by senior priests. For now, the dream is safe, transcribed, held by this matters you. Might wonder why anyone would go to such lengths. But in ancient Mesopotamia, dreams were currency. They guided royal decisions. To invade, to sow, to marry. They led farmers to shift their crops. They calmed anxious mothers. They carried prophecy with weight, and the work of these interpreters. It shaped history, even if quietly. A final, quiet thought now. Imagine yourself tonight, lying down. Maybe your mind drifts toward tomorrow, toward yesterday, toward nothing at all. But consider this. What if you honored your dreams, listened to their fragments? What if you treated each inch of sleep as a message, worthy of slow attention, careful recording? respectful translation. The interpreter's chamber is far away in time, but its quiet ritual still speaks. Sleep is not wasted. It is a message, it is an offering, and sometimes it is a guide. Beds of bitumen and the breath of the gods *. Good evening, friend. The night has stretched wide and still, and you are invited once more to settle slowly into the past, where dust settles softly on ancient mud brick, and the breath of history hums low beneath the stars. Tonight we will lay down beside the ancients, beneath the shelter of reed roofs and between walls scented with bitumen and cedar. We will discover the gentle architecture of rest in Mesopotamia, how people made their beds, how they made sleep sacred, and how they welcomed the gods as quiet guests. So dim your lights if you have not already. Draw your blanket a little closer and let your body sink with ease into calmness. We will take this journey slowly, allowing every detail to breathe, like warm breath mingling with the cool night air. The house and its breath, you find yourself in a small courtyard. House in the city of Nipper around 1800 BCE. The mud brick walls, thick and warm, hold a faint odor, part earth, part smoke, part the sweet resin of incense burned earlier in the day. Bitumen, a natural tar-like substance, has been rubbed into the walls and floors in places, sealing them against the dust and damp. Its scent is subtle but unmistakable, a comforting reminder of protection, a kind of invisible cloak shielding. The home, inside, the furniture is sparse, heavy wooden stools, reed mats woven tightly with date palm fibers, and a small clay lamp resting on a low table. But at the heart of the room is the bed, not just a place to lie down, but a carefully prepared sanctuary. Beds here are not like ours, no ornate frames or spring mattresses. Instead, the bed is a layered construction of reed mats, animal hides, wool blankets, and beneath it all, a base sealed with bitumen to keep out moisture and insects. Bitumen has a sticky texture when fresh, cooled to a hard, smooth surface that almost glows in the dim light. As you move closer, the faint crackle of the bitumen underfoot is almost imperceptible, but you feel the subtle difference. A bed made not only for comfort, but for defense, against the creeping dampness of Mesopotamian nights, against the restless crawling of insects, against the cold breath of the earth itself. The bed is a quiet fortress, the ritual of preparing to sleep. The household's mistress, a woman named Ninson, moves slowly around the room. She is clothed in fine but plain linen, the weave soft and cool against her skin. Her hands are steady as she fluffs the woolen blankets, lays out a pillow of feathers stuffed inside tightly woven flax. Before she lies down, she takes a small bowl from the shelf. It contains a mixture of crushed herbs, hyssop, mint, and a touch of frankincense resin. She sprinkles a few leaves onto the bitumen base, and the scent rises softly, mingling with the lingering smoke of cedar and myrrh, burned in the temple at dawn. The herbs are not just for fragrance. They are believed to hold protective power, keeping away bad dreams, evil spirits, and restless thoughts. Ninsen inhales deeply, letting the subtle aromas wash over her senses. She then lights a small oil lamp, the flame flickering gently as she settles down onto the layered mats. The warmth of the lamp pools in the corners, casting long shadows that dance quietly on the mud brick walls. Her husband, a grain merchant named Ishkar, follows the ritual. He lays a small tablet beside the bed, inscribed with protective incantations asking for peace and calm. The tablet is cool and smooth, its cuneiform script worn by many nights of handling. The tablet reads softly in your mind, "May the breath of the gods pass gently over this house. May sleep come as softly as the rivers flow. May no shadow disturb this resting place." The breath of the gods in Mesopotamian belief. Breath was the essence of life itself. The word for spirit, napku, is closely connected with breath and wind. When sleep came, it was said the gods sent their breath to visit the sleeper, a silent and gentle presence that brought healing and vision in the quiet darkness of the room. You imagine the breath of the gods flowing over the bed, invisible but sensed a cool, soft wind that calms the heart and opens the mind to dreams. To welcome this sacred breath, households performed small rituals before sleep. They might wash their faces with cool water scented with jasmine or rose petals. They might burn a tiny bundle of herbs, or recite a brief prayer to Nana, the moon god, asking for peaceful rest. These actions were slow and deliberate, part of the daily rhythm that separated day from night, work from rest, wakefulness from dreaming. The bed was not simply a place to sleep. It was a threshold, a place where mortal and divine met, where the fragile boundary between waking and dreaming was honored. Bitumen, the earth's quiet guardian. The use of bitumen in homes and on beds may seem curious today. Sticky, black, and pungent, it is not the first material we associate with comfort. But in Mesopotamia, bitumen was a treasured resource. It was gathered from natural springs, where it bubbled up from the earth like slow tears of the planet itself. The Mesopotamians knew how to work it carefully, heated and softened, spread in layers, then cooled until firm. Its protective qualities were prized: waterproof, insect repellent, and surprisingly resilient. Bitumen sealed the floors of homes, the hulls of boats, and yes, the foundations of beds. The scent of bitumen, faint but persistent, became part of the experience of settling into sleep. For some, it was reassuring. For others, it was a reminder of the earth's hold, grounding the sleeper in the physical world, even as the soul took flight. Imagine lying down, feeling the cool firmness of bitumen beneath the softness of woven mats and woolen blankets. The contrast of textures, hard and soft, rough and smooth, anchoring you gently to the earth. Night sounds and the city's breath outside the house. The city of Nipper breathes softly in the night. You hear the distant murmur of the Euphrates. Flowing slowly, the occasional cry of an owl perched on a date palm nearby. In other homes, lamps flicker as families settle in for the night. The smell of cooking fires lingers faintly on the warm air. Within these sounds is a quiet order, the rhythm of ancient life winding down, the clink of pottery being set aside, the rustle of linen robes, the soft footsteps of children being tucked to sleep. You feel a part of this slow, steady breathing of the city, connected to the many who have lived and slept here before you. The sleepers, mind, and the slow drifters, Ninsen and Ishkar, lie down. The body's tension begins to ease, the day's heat fades. The herb's scent deepens the mind, too, and spools slowly. Thoughts move like gentle currents, not rushing but flowing. The dream world waits patiently, just beyond waking. Sleep comes not as a sudden fall, but as a gradual approach, a dimming of senses, a folding inward, a soft surrender. Dreams and their quiet messages in this culture. Dreams were not dismissed as nonsense or random flickers. They were messages, sometimes from the gods, sometimes from the soul, sometimes from the deeper self, trying to speak, The sleeper might dream of the river rising, of fish leaping, of distant voices calling. These dreams were interpreted carefully upon waking. Dreams could foretell fortune, warn of danger, or provide guidance, and often the dream's meaning was hidden beneath layers. Like the layers of the bed itself, the bed as a sacred place more than a practical object. The bed was a sacred space. It was where the body rested, yes, but also where the soul's journey began. Some beds were blessed by priests, sprinkled with holy water or anointed with oils. Some carried inscriptions, charms against nightmares. Some were built near household shrines, so that the divine presence was near even in sleep. You imagine sitting beside such a bed, the faint glow of a lamp illuminating the worn reed mats, the curve of an oil lamp's handle, the smooth coldness of a clay tablet waiting to catch a dream's memory, the quiet legacy of sleep as you slowly prepare to close your eyes yourself. You might consider this, that even thousands of years ago, sleep was treasured, not just for rest, but for connection, for peace, for the whisper of gods, for the sacred breath that passes unseen. You are part of that long, quiet story, a story of humans seeking calm, shelter, and gentle hope beneath the vast night sky. And so, as you rest now, remember the bitumen beds and the breath of the gods. Let their stillness join your own. Let the scent of herbs, the hum of distant rivers, and the slow weaving of ancient rituals lull you gently toward your dreams. Sleep well, dear friend. Story 5. The quiet art of ancient Andean laundry whispers in the wind, "Good evening, friend." The day folds gently into night, and as the world quiets, you prepare to travel once more this time, to the high, misty mountains of the ancient Andes. Here, where the clouds drift slowly across terraced fields, where the wind carries secrets from faraway peaks, we will explore the calm, careful rhythms of daily life that often go unnoticed. Tonight, let us settle together into a small village of the pre-Incan era, perhaps somewhere near the shores of Lake Titicaca, or along the fertile valleys where the Wari and Tiwanaku peoples quietly thrived. It is here, amidst cool air and soft earth, that we will uncover an unassuming but vital story, the ancient art of laundry, so dim your lights pull your blanket close and let your breath slow. Together we will listen to the whispers of wind, water, and worn cloth, discovering how people of the Andes gently cleansed their garments, cared for their textiles, and found moments of peace in the ritual of washing. The morning mist and the river's song, the sun has just begun to rise, but the village remains wrapped in a soft, silvery mist. You stand by the edge of a narrow river, its waters clear and cool, rushing quietly over smooth stones. The river sings a low, steady song, gentle melody that has played for countless generations. Its sound is steady, almost hypnotic, and you feel your body slow in time with the water's rhythm. Near the riverbank, several women are already at work. Their garments are simple but elegant, woven tunics dyed in deep indigos and warm ochres, embroidered with subtle patterns inspired by birds and mountains. They move deliberately, with care and grace. Each woman carries a bundle of clothes, wrapped in tightly folded leaves or woven red mats, protecting the precious fabrics from dirt. The women gather stones from the riverbed flat, smooth and cool to the touch. These will be their tools, gently rubbing the fibers clean without damaging the delicate weaves. The textures of cloth and water you reach out, touching the fabric of one woman's tunic. It is made from alpaca wool, soft, warm, and surprisingly light. The wool has been carefully spun and dyed using natural plants, creating a rich texture that invites quiet admiration. The fabric is dry now, but soon it will be dipped into the river, the water flowing between each fiber, carrying away the dust of the day, the faint scent of earth, and the memory of long journeys. You watch as the women begin to wash. Their hands move slowly, almost meditatively. They fold the garments into the cold water, pressing gently to release dust and sweat. Then, with a flat stone, they rub the cloth in small circles, always careful, never hurried. The water foams softly, white and cool. The sun, now climbing higher, filters through the mist and catches on droplets flying through the air. This is not a chore done in haste. It is a ritual, a slow dance between cloth, water, and hands. The sacred care of textiles. In the Andean worldview, textiles were far more than simple clothing. They were sacred objects, woven with prayers, memories, and identity. Each thread told a story, each pattern held meaning. Cleaning these textiles was a gentle form of respect, an act of renewal, not destruction. Careless washing could damage not just fabric, but the very essence of a person's spirit. So women took great care. They knew the right plants to use as natural detergents, the exact stones that would not fray fibers, and the times of day when the sun's warmth was soft enough not to fade colors. The riverbank became a quiet classroom where elders taught. The young, the delicate techniques passed down through generations. You might imagine a grandmother, seated beside the water, hands folded, whispering stories about each pattern and color, her voice blending with the river's murmur, a pause for quiet reflection between washes. The women rest. They sit on smooth stones or lean against willows, their fingers still damp and cool. Sometimes they hum softly a lullaby or a prayer. Their voices blend with the wind, carrying the sacred rhythms of their ancestors. The women share small gifts, a sprig of mint, a woven bracelet, a handful of dried flowers. These exchanges are silent blessings, the language of care. Nearby, children play quietly, their laughter a soft ripple in the morning light. All around, the landscape breathes a slow unfolding of light. Water, earth, and spirit, the folding and drying of memories once. The washing is done. The garments are lifted from the river and gently squeezed, releasing cool droplets that sparkle in the sunlight. They are laid carefully on flat stones or spread across sunlit patches of grass. The drying process is slow, the fabrics fluttering softly in the mountain breeze. You watch the cloth catch the wind, folding and unfolding like a silent hymn. The sun warms the fibers, restoring their softness and bringing life back to their colors. As the clothes dry, the women begin to fold each piece with the same care they used in washing. Each fold is precise and slow, almost a meditation. The folded garments are wrapped in fragrant leaves, eucalyptus, sage, or coca, protecting them and honoring their sacred nature. The evening return letter in the day. The washed and dried textiles are brought back to the village. They are stored carefully in woven baskets lined with soft feathers or dried moss. Their journey ends here, but the ritual continues. Intertwined with the fabric of daily life, the women return to their homes, their hands still smelling faintly of river and herbs. At dusk, when the village is bathed in pink and gold, these textiles will become warmth, protection, and identity. Once again, the quiet legacy of clean cloth. You might wonder, why such care for laundry? But in the Andean highlands, the simple act of washing cloth is a meditation on life itself. It is about renewal of fabric, body, and spirit. It is about connection to the earth, the water, and each other. And it is about respect for the sacredness woven into every thread as you rest now. Imagine the soft splash of water, the gentle touch of cloth on skin, and the quiet hum of wind through leaves. Let these gentle moments carry you toward rest, knowing you walk alongside generations who found peace in the slow, careful rhythms of everyday life. Sleep well, dear friend. The quiet return, threads of life and ritual in the Andean evening. The sun begins its slow descent behind the terraced hills, casting a warm golden glow that stretches long shadows across the stone pathways and fields. The river, now calm, and reflecting the soft hues of twilight, carries away the last traces of the day's labor. You find yourself once again at the riverbank, where the air has shifted from the crisp chill of morning to the gentle warmth of late afternoon. The mist has lifted, and the sky is a quiet wash of pastel pinks and purples, fading softly into deepening blue. The women who gathered here hours before are returning, their arms cradling bundles of freshly dried cloth, wrapped with care and tenderly tied with strands of woven grass or the delicate leaves of the Andean laurel. Their faces carry the faint flush of sun and exertion, but their movements remain unhurried, rhythmic, as if the day's washing was not a task to be hurried through, but a slow meditation on life itself. The path from river to village is lined with soft moss and wildflowers, and you notice the faint sound of sandals brushing the earth, the muted rustle of cloth, the distant calls of birds returning to roost. As you walk beside the women, you observe how they carry their bundles not as burdens, but as treasures, precious guardians of warmth and memory. Each fold of fabric contains more than wool or cotton. It holds stories woven by countless fingers, dyed with natural pigments from the mountains, and blessed by herbs gathered at dawn. The women exchange quiet smiles and soft words. Their voices are low and steady, a gentle hum beneath the sound of evening insects and the sighing wind back in the village. You notice how the small stone homes gather like a circle of stones around a fire. Smoke drifts lazily from chimneys, carrying the scent of wood smoke mingled with cooking herbs. The freshly laundered textiles are unpacked with reverence, folded once more, and stored carefully in wooden chests lined with soft llama wool. Some will become garments to be worn on special occasions, others blankets to shield against the chill of mountain nights. You notice how the villagers, men, women, children, treat these fabrics with a shared respect. These textiles are a form of identity, a tangible connection to their ancestors and the land. As twilight deepens, the village gathers near the central fire. The elders tell stories, their voices slow and melodic, recounting legends of mountains and rivers, weaving history and myth into a tapestry of words. You listen to tales of Pachamama, the Earth Mother who nurtures all life, and of Inti, the sun god, whose warmth brings growth and light. These stories are more than entertainment. They are the fabric of belief, guiding daily rituals and reminding all who listen of their place in the cosmos. The textiles washed and cared for during the day will soon cloak the villagers as they sleep, wrapping them in the warmth of both wool and tradition. The ritual of washing and caring for cloth is thus not just a practical matter, but a spiritual one, connecting the people to the cycles of nature and the rhythm of life. You imagine the quiet conversations shared during washing, the songs hummed beneath breaths, the prayers whispered as hands fold fabric. each motion a gesture of gratitude and hope. This gentle continuity of care, of touch and attention, binds the generations, a thread running quietly through time. Outside, the stars begin to emerge, pale points of light scattered across the velvet sky. The air cools once again, carrying the faint fragrance of dried herbs and earth. You feel the softness of a worn alpaca blanket wrapped around your shoulders, the faint scent of mint and eucalyptus lingering like a memory. The world slows, and you sink deeper into stillness. As you drift toward rest, consider the quiet dignity found in these ancient rituals. How something as simple as washing clothes can become a meditation on renewal, connection, and respect. Let the rhythm of water and wind, cloth and stone guide you into dreams. Sleep peacefully, friend. Nightfall threads the deep quiet of rest and renewal in the Andes. Night settles slowly across the Andean village, folding the world beneath a dark, starry cloak. The mountains stand silent, ancient sentinels watching over the land, their peaks fading softly into the indigo sky. The air is crisp, scented faintly with the warmth of earth cooled after a day under the sun. You find yourself wrapped in the comforting silence of this place, where even the smallest sounds seem hushed, as though the earth itself is holding its breath. Inside the homes, soft candlelight flickers against walls made of stone and earth, casting gentle shadows that dance like quiet spirits. The villagers move with slow, deliberate steps, preparing for rest after the day's rhythms in the warm hearths. Small fires crackle and pop, their orange glow blending with the soft aroma of wood smoke and drying herbs. The air is filled with a peaceful stillness, punctuated only by the faint murmur of whispered conversation and the occasional creak of wooden beams settling families. Gather together beneath woven blankets, the very textiles washed and cared. For throughout the day cloaking themselves in the warmth and memories held within each thread, the blankets carry stories of hands that spun the wool, fingers that dyed the fibers with the earth's pigments, and of the river that cleansed the cloth with cool, flowing water. You sense a profound connection here between the people and the land, woven not just into their garments, but into their very being. Their lives are bound to the slow pulse of nature, the rising and setting of the sun, the cycle of seasons, the quiet growth of plants beneath their feet. Rest is not simply a pause, but an essential thread in this fabric of life. It is a time for renewal, where the body, mind, and spirit can be wrapped in comfort and healing. Outside, the night air is cool and still. You imagine the soft rustle of a llama moving gently nearby, the faint flutter of moths drawn to the glow of lanterns. The river whispers somewhere in the distance, a gentle lullaby weaving through the valley. The stars shine steadily above, timeless witnesses to countless nights like this, nights of rest, dreams, and quiet renewal. In these moments, the importance of the day's labor of washing, drying, and caring for cloth takes on new meaning. It is a form of love, a ritual of respect for oneself, one's family, and the earth. Each thread is a reminder that even the smallest acts can be filled with intention and care, carrying us gently through the cycles of life. As you settle deeper into the softness of night, let the gentle cadence of this story slow your breath, ease your thoughts, and cradle you toward sleep. May the wisdom of the Andes, the quiet patience, the reverence for nature, the tender attention to daily rituals wrap around you like the warmest blanket, and as your eyes close, know that you are part of this long, slow story, woven with threads of water, earth, and quiet hands. Sleep well, dear friend. That concludes story 5. Let's now wander into a different time, a different place, ...